All right, today we have a 2012 Honda Accord, and this is the 2.4 cylinder. So today we are changing the O2 sensors. This is what your O2 sensors should look like. So this is your upstream sensor here, and this is your downstream sensor here. So the first one, the upstream, is located right here. So you can see it clear as day. It has the same green sleeve over it that my replacement part has. So as you can see, there's two parts to remove. There's the main O2 sensor itself right here, but of course there's the plug for it right there. So the plug itself is really easy to remove. So the tab to remove this is actually back here. So I can push that tab down and then I can pull this off. So see how that's pulled through the back there. So the reason why I pulled that out first is because this is mounted on and I can just pull that off, and this is being held down. If I pull this off first, then it will be harder to get those apart with one hand. So now that I have that off of there, I can push this tab down here and I can pull this off of here like that. And now this is disconnected. So this is the harness plug for it here. So you can see, hopefully this helps you finding your new part. And of course, after you get this out, all you have to do is put your socket over here, your O2 sensor socket, or you can cut the wire and put a regular socket on here and get this off that way. But of course, when you're putting your new one in, you can't cut the wire, so you have to use a special socket to get this in when you're putting this back on. Okay, so I have my special socket on here. You can see this is a special O2 sensor socket. I'm gonna get this right on the top of here. And now I'm gonna turn this counterclockwise to get it loose. So just like that, you can see it's loose. You can see it's loose. We can take this up now. You can remove this finish removing it by hand. And get that out of there. So this is the old part. All right, so the second one is located down here on the side. So in order to reach it, it's best to remove this tire here. And then again, this is on the passenger side. So, and you can see it right there, clear as day, and the harness plug for it there. So once you get that harness plug off right there, you just squeeze that tab and release it. So before cutting this, remember to disconnect the negative battery terminal. That should already be disconnected anyways. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this wire here and then put a regular 7/8 socket over the part. Then we can get our O2 sensor socket on here and turn that out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this harness plug off now. All right, so now that that plug is off, I'm going to use my O2 sensor socket. So I have this O2 sensor socket here I'm going to use. It has an opening on the side meant for feeding the wire through. And if this isn't getting it off for you, let's say it's slipping because it's too loose in here, you can always cut the old wire from the old part and use a 7/8 regular deep socket, and it will hold it a whole lot better. But remember, once you cut that wire, there's no going back. And of course, when you're installing your new one, you don't have to worry about cutting the wire, because you don't have to worry about putting too much torque on this. So the regular O2 sensor socket should get the new part in. So let's go ahead and get this socket on here now. All right, so I have that socket on there now. So I'm gonna just turn counterclockwise. You know what? actually, before I go that far with it for cutting the wire, so now I'm underneath. I'm gonna try to use a regular 22 millimeter wrench and get that on there, and hopefully that can get the job done. I think it turned. Yeah, it turned. So the wrench, the 22 millimeter wrench from underneath got it to turn. Yep, see, it's turning right there. So this got it to turn, even though this didn't. So when I used this, it kept jumping, and like because of this opening here, it basically expands, and then it'll jump on the bolt instead of gripping it all the way and turning it. So this didn't work for the one underneath. This worked for the upstream, but it did not work for the downstream. So for the downstream, I had to use the wrench, and the wrench came in clutch. I can go back up there and actually use this now to finish getting it out that it's loose. And these are the new parts and the old parts side by side. So old part here, new part here. Even though it's a different sleeve, it's the same part. And so everything's a perfect match. All right, so let's get our new O2 sensor in here. So of course this is the upstream sensor that we're getting ready to put in now. Right here, upstream. It looks just like the one that we took out. So we're gonna get that started by hand first. All right, now that it's firm, I'm gonna get my O2 sensor socket and put it over there, the same one we used to get it out. And now I can go ahead and tighten this up. All right, that should do it. All right, so now that that's tight, we can put our harness in down here. Let's put this piece in here first on this little metal part. And then that way, when we try to put this on, it doesn't push back, and we can get it on with one hand. So there goes the cord for that there, and that's plugged in now. So that is easy as that. The upstream sensor is now changed. All right, so I'm getting ready to put the number 2 downstream sensor in now. Remember, we got it from down here. So I don't have to go from the bottom to put this in. I only had to go to the bottom to use the wrench because it was hard to get out. But getting it in is going to be different. So I'm going to reach right in here from the side and get this in by hand first. All right, so I got that in by hand as best as I can get it. So now I can get to use my O2 sensor socket now and reach in there. All right, so I have my ratchet. All right, so I have my ratchet and socket on here. So I'm going to go ahead and start tightening this O2 sensor down now. All right, so that is nice and tight. So let me get my plug, and I'm going to plug this right back in right here. Just like that. So with that, my number 2 downstream O2 sensor is now changed. All right, let's get this tire back on here. Okay, so we can reconnect our negative battery terminal, and that is it. That is how you change your O2 sensors on this vehicle.